Okay, back to where we left off with tefillin. So generally speaking, it says in halacha that a boy, before he becomes bar mitzvah, instead of wasting a lot of time on a non-important thing, he should learn the laws of tefillin, that he needs to know as a bar mitzvah boy. So when you take out the tefillin, so yesterday we were learning that you have to take out the shalyat first. Why do you take out the shalyat first? Because the Torah says you have to first put on the hand tefillin, then the head tefillin. Then what happens by mistake? You took out the shorosh. So even though there would be an inyan of putting on the shorosh first because you don't pass over mitzvahs, but in this case it's biblical, so bottom line is you have to put on the shalyat. But when you take out the tefillin, they have to be taken out respectfully. Generally speaking, the whole tefillin are very, very holy. So I'll give you a few examples. First of all, the custom is when you take out the tefillin, you kiss the shalyat and the shorosh. But you kiss the tefillin. When you put it away, you kiss the tefillin before you put it away. Many times you see people, when they're putting on the head tefillin especially, they'll hold the back part of the strap and the head tefillin will be hanging down. So it says in halacha that's disrespectful to the tefillin. You don't tefillin hang. You're supposed to hold the box of the tefillin, that's the holiest part. So instead of letting the tefillin hang when you put them on, you're supposed to hold them in your hand properly. And also you don't, if you want to take the tefillin out of the bag, you don't turn the bag and shake out the tefillin. There's all practical things of how the tefillin need to be taken out. You don't have the tefillin hanging like we said. Okay. Now, when you have the hand tefillin, the yud, that part of the knot that has the yud in it, says in halacha really has to always be touching the bias, the actual box of the tefillin, the bias as it's called. It should not be not touching it. In fact, the Rebbe writes that even when the tefillin are in the bag, you should always make sure that you wrap the tefillin in such a way that the yud, that part of the kesher, the yud, is always touching the actual bias itself. And therefore you'll notice in a lot of the thin protection boxes inside, by the shalyat, it's cut out. Why is that cut out? For two things. Number one, when you put the tefillin back in the container, in the bag, and the bag, the yud is touching the actual bias of the tefillin, but also during davening. Now there's different customs of do you have, again, that inner it's called it's a tick that protects the tefillin, that it shouldn't get ruined. The head tefillin you can't wear one because the head tefillin have to be open. V'ro kol ha'me'aretz, which refers to the head tefillin, those need to be visible. So that you can't put something on it to protect it. But the hand tefillin, especially because it says, Ukshartem la'ois al yodecha, should be for you a sign. Therefore, it could be covered. And again, only the box is covered. The actual kesher, the yud, the knot of the hand tefillin is not covered. But the yud should be touching the bias. Now, some people have a minhag that they don't cover the tefillin during davening with that little box container. In fact, the Rebbe writes that in the previous Rebbe's tefillin, the hand tefillin didn't have the cutout of that inner box, which means that he didn't wear it during davening. Because if you wore it during davening, then the yud wouldn't be touching the box, because it's not cut out. So the Rebbe writes that even though the previous Rebbe did like that, in pros probably his father did like that, but the Rebbe writes on himself that I do wear the box of the tefillin. And it's an interesting thing, if you ever notice when people put on the hand tefillin, many people if they're bachim, they have a minhag, they take the jacket and they cover the hand when they put on the tefillin. Or if they're married, they'll take the talis and cover that area before they make the bracha. They say it's from the Baal Shem Tov, but it's even brought down in halacha. There's in the back of Shulchan Aruch, there's a gos from Frankel Tumim, his name is. He writes that there's a minhag that when you make a bracha on the tefillin, it's not an official Chabad minhag, but that's what everybody does. That when you make a bracha on the tefillin, because by the hand tefillin, it says, for you a sign, so therefore it should be covered to show it that you're doing it for yourself. It's for you a sign. The head tefillin is, of course, not supposed to be covered. In fact, there are different opinions in Kabbalah. Do you cover the head tefillin or not? But our custom is, in the tefillin we should have a show and tell. So in the head tefillin, in the tefillin, okay. This is the tefillin, right? So this is the actual box, the bias. The whole thing is really the bias, okay? Now this part is squared, this part is squared. It has to be exactly squared. Now this is called, this part of the tefillin, the strap goes through both on the hand and on the head. That's called the mabarta. Mabarta is Aramaic for ma'avir. It passes through. That's the place where the ritzua goes through. So in Hebrew, in Gemara, it's called mabarta. You have it on the hand tefillin also. Just like you have it on the head tefillin. You have it on the hand tefillin, the same thing. It says in Shulchan Aruch, when you put on tefillin, you should have a wide table. Instead, in case notice it says in halacha, then in case the tefillin fall down, they won't fall on the floor, they'll fall on the table. So this is also, by the hand tefillin, you also have the mabarta, with the place where the strap goes through. So again, this area is squared. It's not coming off, but this area is squared. Okay, if you notice, even in this cover, the inner cover, it's cut out that when the tefillin, that you're wearing the tefillin, the yud is touching that part of the tefillin. So when you wear the head tefillin, because we said the head tefillin is supposed to be uncovered, so the talis is supposed to cover, according to our minig, only this part. In other words, the talis, you don't cover the whole tefillin. You cover only the mabarta part, that the actual bias of the tefillin should be uncovered. Some people that put on, some Svardim that put on Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam at the same time, so then one of them they do cover, one of them they don't cover. The show Rosh. It's very interesting, the different customs that even amongst the Svardim itself, there's just a lot of different customs of what they do, and different. It's all based on different halachic, kabbalistic things. So number one, when you take out the tefillin, the head tefillin, let's say, or even you don't hang it like this, you know what I mean? Because it's disrespectful to have tefillin hanging like this. So when you do it, you're supposed to hold the tefillin and take it out. And even when you're taking out the head tefillin, you make sure that you're holding the tefillin, the box of the tefillin, the bias of the tefillin in your hand, because that's pashut respect for it.
Is it hold back?
What?
If the catcher is not touching the...
It's not ma'akiv as far as the mitzvah, it's definitely not, it's ma'akiv in the way Api Kabbalah is supposed to be done, and that there should also be the mitzvah halachos, and then Shulchan Aruch. It's also in the Zayar. The Zayar says, he brings down here, that if the kesher is far from the tefillin, if it's marchik far, marchikin aisim in hashemayim, they distance him from heaven. That's what he quote from the Zayar. But, so the yud has to be, make sure to be touching the bias. What?
Question.
Yeah.
So I know that some people have a string. A lot of times it's the string that's actually used for the tefillin. Since I don't have access to one, they use a rubber band.
To do what?
To make sure that the yud is attached to the box.
You could do that, or you can do, sometimes it could maybe a question of a chatzitza between the ritzu and the tefillin. But if it's not going to be a separation between, it's not a problem. But you could do it just by the ritzu itself, by the strap itself. You can make sure that it touches it.
Yeah, so this is just to make sure that it is.
Yeah.
And it's only on top.
Yes. That is supposed to be covered. And again, the real reason is because, again, it doesn't even come off. This is glued on, this one? Anyway, it's supposed to protect the tefillin, because if the tefillin gets cracked, not just the paint comes off, it actually gets bent, you bang into a wall and the tefillin chips. It could be that you lose the fact that it's not square anymore, and the tefillin could be puzzled. It could be tefillin, mamish could be not kosher tefillin anymore. So you have to always bring it. If it doesn't, you have to bring it to a sefer that you should measure it and see if it's just the paint that chipped, or is actually the actual box that chipped. It's another issue. So you have to just make sure that when you put it on or things like that. What?
I had it happen once where the tefillin was a little bit chipped along the line of the separation. It was paint. It was not the actual.
If it's only the paint, it's kosher.
Sorry?
If it's only the paint, it's kosher.
I had it redone, but
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
But I had an interesting question today about tefillin, not about this part of the tefillin. But the guy called me that he knows somebody. Now the guy's probably 40 or 50 years old, I don't know, whatever. But he was born a left-handed kid, completely left-handed. And they taught him how to write with his right hand. And now he does everything with the left except writing with the right. So that we learned already is an argument between the Alter Rebbe and Tzemach Tzedek. The Alter Rebbe holds you only go by the writing. Tzemach Tzedek says if he does everything else with the opposite hand, you go by everything else. But here I asked him a different question, because the guy was older. I said, at what age did they teach him to write with the right hand? Because if they taught him to write with the right hand when he was 20, that means when he became bar mitzvah, he was still writing with the left hand. Then he's a complete lefty. So I told him to find out at what age did they teach the kid to write. I mentioned this many times. My wife, when she was in third grade or fourth grade in school, so my wife's left-handed, but in everything. But when she went up to write on the board, they used to have blackboards then, the teacher made the kids come up right on the board. When she took her left hand to write with the chalk on the board, the teacher says, no, left-handed people the brain is a little messed up. And she forced her to write on the board with her right hand. So it's interesting, as she grew older, she can only write on the board with her right hand. She can only write on paper with the left hand. She can't do the reverse, and it's an identical writing. It's very interesting. The left hand on paper and the right hand on the board is identical writing, but she was born left-handed, but the teacher forced her to write on the board with the right hand. If that would be a boy, she'd have a problem. But anyway.